If you like the thought of racing around a school playing field on a Sunday morning getting covered in mud, then you need to try cyclocross, the most accessible and exciting form of cycle sport. And to do that, you need a cyclocross race bike, like this one here actually. This is a brand new Canyon Inflite AL SLX 6.0 race, quite a mouthful, and it costs £1,299. And for that, you get an aluminium frame, a carbon fork, and a SRAM Apex 1x group set. But the best thing is how good it looks. I mean, just look at it. What a good looking bike. Now the colour, they call it hot to mint, has similarities with a certain other bike brand, which I'm sure you'll let me know in the comment section below. But I think it looks really good. Really understated graphics, nice clean lines, a really purposeful, fast looking bike. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below if you think the bike looks hot or not. So let me talk you through a few of the key details on this new bike and why it might be the bike for you if you're looking to get into cyclocross this winter. One of the key features of the Inflite when it launched last year, the all-new race platform for the German company, was a kinked top tube. It set internet forums around the world alight with debate. People either loved it or hated it. It's not really something you sat on the fence about, you had a strong opinion about it either way. But whether you like the look of it or not, it's there for a valid design reason, because everything that Canyon does is based on sound engineering. You might not agree with the looks of it, but it's there for a reason. And that reason was mainly to increase the amount of space in the front triangle. You quite often have obstacles, steep banks and steps that you have to get the bike over your shoulder and run up these obstacles and then get back on at the top. So Canyon decided to open up the amount of space in the front triangle, raise the height of the top tube to make it easier to get your arm and shoulder through the front triangle. So the kink allows them to raise the top tube, but also to make sure the rear triangle is kept nice and compact, and the amount of seat posts that extended is maximised to get a bit more seated comfort when riding over rough terrain, and you've got a nice compact rear end. And the kink top tube was their solution. As you can see on this aluminium model, they softened the amount of kink, less kinky perhaps. That's probably a limitation on the material, but it's certainly a little bit easier on the eye. Another detail change while we're here is the external seat clamp. It's internal on the carbon Inflite, it's now external on this model, which is no bad thing in my book. It's certainly easier to adjust the saddle height with less things go wrong. So that's a key feature of the bike. Let's move on to some other details. As I mentioned just now, the Inflite when it launched last year was only available as a carbon fibre frame. Now it's available as a single model in aluminium to allow them to make this whole Inflite range much more accessible, and it's a really good option for the aspirational cyclocross racer and somebody getting into cyclocross racing. So you've got a really smart aluminium frame, which, as I mentioned, carries some of the key features of the carbon model, including the kinked top tube, but also the internal cable routing for the single gear cable and the brake hose, so out of the way of mud, not going to clog up so much. In terms of mud clogging, they've increased the clearance around the rear stays, around the tyres, to just minimise the amount of mud that it can clog on the frame. There's no chainstay bridge to remove that shelf that normally served to just kind of collect mud, so that's a nice attention to detail. The press fit bottom bracket, because the bike's all about racing and performance. You get the same 360 gram carbon fork as on the carbon model, and you also get 12mm through axles front and rear with flat mount caliper disc brakes. So it carries a lot of the same features as the carbon model, but just in an aluminium frame at a more affordable price. And it's a really smart looking frame as well. They managed to carry some of that styling from the carbon model into the aluminium model with a few compromises really. One of the compromises on the aluminium frame is the weight, so there's a bit of a weight penalty in going to aluminium. They're saying it's about 470 grams heavier than the carbon model. The carbon Inflite is just over a kilo, so you're looking at 1500 grams for a frame. Now we haven't weighed the frame on its own, so we can't verify that, but that's not a bad weight. For the person looking for this sort of price point cyclocross bike, weight isn't at the top of the list of priorities. Performance and equipment are probably higher up the list than weight. In terms of weight, this is a size medium, and before I started filming this video I put it on the scales and it weighs 8.86 kilograms. Now last year I tested the mid-range carbon Inflite with a slightly better SRAM rival group set and similar equipment, the carbon handlebar and stem, and it weighed just over 8.2 kilograms. So So it's not a massive weight difference in terms of the difference in the frame material and the equipment compared to the lighter one I tested last year. So I think that's a respectable weight difference and a respectable weight all in really, certainly for this price point. For your £1,299 you get a SRAM Apex 1x group set. It's a 40 tooth chainring on the front and an 1136 cassette on the back. I ran this configuration last year, and for most cyclocross courses, which are typically flat with a few steep hills in places and lots of dead corners, it's a good setup with plenty of range for the demands of most typical cyclocross courses. It's SRAM's entry level, is most affordable 1x group set, but it carries most of the tech you get on the more expensive rival and force group sets above it. So you get the same clutch mechanism in the rear mech and the same narrow wide chain ring on the front, both designed to prevent the chain falling off, to keep the chain on the chain ring when you're riding over bumpy terrain. And the chances of a chain coming off are very slim. If the chain does drop off, it's a rare occurrence, and I raced the whole season on rival last year and had no problems with the chain coming off, even in the muddiest terrain. It can happen, but it's very unlikely to happen. So that's a good setup. You also get hydraulic disc brakes with this group set, which is nice to see at this price point, with a 160 front rotor and a 140 rear rotor. Nice and powerful, plenty of control at the levers, loads of modulation, just really good brakes. SRAM hasn't changed the hood design on the Apex. They're still at that large hood size, which is actually a benefit in cyclocross racing, because when it's muddy and slippery and wet, your hands aren't going to slip over the hoods, and it's nice to have those big hoods to anchor your hands into. So actually a benefit of that design, even though they don't look that pleasing to the eye. Moving on to the wheels and tyres, you get a nice set of DT Swiss 1850 spline wheels, nice wide aluminium shallow section rim with nice looking hubs and high quality bearings. DT Swiss have a really good reputation for reliability and performance. They're a nice solid wheel set. Probably not the lightest, but at this price point, as I mentioned earlier, you're not really worrying about the weight so much. You want reliability and durability, and these wheels should offer that. And mounted to the wheels are Schwabe's X1 tyres. They're a nice aggressive tread pattern. They definitely lean towards softer, wetter, muddier conditions with that tread pattern. Probably not the fastest choice on hard packed dry conditions that we have right now, but at this level, if you're just getting into cyclocross racing, just don't worry about it. Run your tyres through the whole season, you'll be absolutely fine. You're not going to lose too much by not having the ultimate tyre setup for the right conditions, and you can leave tyre tread and tyre pressure to the real cyclocross geeks who really do geek out on a tyre choice and pressures. They're both tubeless ready, the rims and tyres, so I would definitely make most of that opportunity and get rid of the in-tube, put some sealant in there and run tubeless, because that minimises the potential for getting a puncture, which is the last thing you want in a cyclocross race. You don't want a puncture ruining your race. You want to get the best performance, and tubeless allows you to do that. Moving our attention to the finishing kit, and you get a really nice clean Canyon branded aluminium stem and handlebar. You don't get the funky carbon one-piece stem that I had on the test bike last year, but this does offer more adjustability in terms of fit. You can put a longer, shorter stem on if you want. Loads of spacers underneath the stem for adjusting the height as well, so you can get it just dialed into how you want. Nice thick bar tape for a bit of extra cushioning on those bumpy cross courses. And here you can see a better look at the hoods. But if I demonstrate, you can really anchor your hands behind the hoods, and plenty of place to kind of just plant your hands and just anchor them in there. Really good for cross racing, I think. You do get a bit of carbon at the seat post. Canyon's own branded carbon fibre seat post with a 2-bolt seat clamp there. And on top of that is a Celitalia saddle. Looks nice shape, nicely padded, so it should be a good choice for the bike. But I think the finishing kit all matches the bike really well. Understated, no nonsense, and simple is what you want. The last thing to talk about really is the versatility, or the lack of it. As you can see from the frame and fork, there are no mudguard mounts, and not really designed for taking wider tyres. That's because the company has the new Grail, their adventure and gravel bike, which is designed for wide tyres and taking mudguards, and being a really practical, versatile bike that you use for cross racing, adventure riding, commuting, and a bit of everything really. This bike, as I've said a few times in the video, is all about performance. It's all about racing, all about winning races. So taken all that versatility out of it and just really made it really focused on racing and going fast, and all about performance, as I mentioned a few times. That's no bad thing, and we're seeing it reflected in the industry as a whole, with the whole growth of this gravel and adventure bike sector, allowing cross bikes to get back to that singular focus for racing. Because in the past we've seen cross bikes be popular with people who want a bike they can race on a Sunday but also ride to work on a Monday with changed tyres. But Now with gravel and adventure bikes, those bikes are much better suited to that sort of riding with better geometry, wide tyres and other features. So these bikes all about racing. To find out how this new Inflite performs and how my legs perform, I've entered a few local cyclocross races, so we're putting it through its paces over the next few weeks. Make sure you don't miss that future video update by hitting the red subscribe button at the bottom, and you get alerted to all future videos from myself and the rest of the road.cc team. But that's all for now. I'm going to hit the trails and go for a ride, and I'll see you again in the next video.